philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shoutouts to Andreas, Deacon, my boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. And Sarah, keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else for playing memes.
Dude, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Yo.
So we'll just like a moment of silence for Chris's face because he was punched really hard in the face apparently with a sword. I think the backside of a sword while he was saving like 36 kindergartners from the Foot Clan.
I mean, that's a lot more exciting than what
They were
really
trying to
happened.
steal the farm. They're trying to steal the rice.
Oh my god, bro. Yeah, no, so like that's pretty rad though. Like, I mean, do you feel more alive because you were punched in the face? Because sometimes I do. I remember being at like a school dance and I was dancing with this girl. It was like 7th grade. It wasn't my school. It wasn't my dance. But yeah, that guy's that it wasn't my girlfriend either. And like, so I got punched in the face over it, but it was so worth it because like I could outdance everybody at that school dance, and that girl liked it. And then I felt so alive. So I don't know. Was it like that at all? Do you feel more alive?
No, because last night I was teaching. Like Tuesdays, I'm usually assigned with like teaching the class as the senior, and at the end, you know, the younger guys are so what's the word? They just like to fight. You know, they're young, they're hopped up, they're all they're all testosteroned out, and I think it was just an accident. Like, because I remember sometimes even if you get a hit and it's like over, like they might still like be in the middle of something and then they accidentally hit you with something like the pommel of the sword. And I think that's what that was. I didn't even notice it until this morning. It probably just like formed overnight.
So you're telling me that that's the best excuse you could come up with for being ingratiated into the Epstein Black Eye Club? That's all you had, really?
I mean, it's like happens all the time. Like I think I've bled a few times. I've almost broken a finger. Like all sorts of shit.
Dude,
Didn't Elon get a black eye?
All the cool
pretty recently, like
that. All the cool lizard people do. That's the thing. Like now, you're like Kanye West and Justin Bieber. You're like George Bush and Adam Sandler.
What was the timing of Elon's black eye? Was it before he said that Trump was on the list, or was it right after? I can't remember.
It was right before.
Yeah, when I saw that, though, in my opinion, I think they were just partying too hard and they did some stupid shit as a billionaire. It's like, whoops, I fell on the toilet. You know, like.
Apparently, he like was fighting with like the secretary treasurer, right? Wasn't that the thing? Like I heard that that was the official excuse, was like he like punched the secretary treasury.
I gotta
get your tea.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, Jay Leno. Yeah, Jay Leno's in the Black Eye Club. I think we all are. You know, I think that's the thing. It's yeah. If you're not in the Black Eye Club, then like, are you even special? Like, you know, if your daddy doesn't punch you in the face, who are you really? Don't punch your kids.
I got a black eye once.
Yeah, how did you get
that was a bad
your black
experience. Oh man, it's a long story, but I was okay. Do you really want to know?
Yeah, of course I do. What?
All right. So what
No,
what
I'm
happened
kidding.
was I was going through a really it's an embarrassing story. I was
Nice.
going
Now I'm
through
more interested than before.
yeah. I was going through a really hard little period of time. My wife was out of town visiting her parents, and we newly had a baby and all this stuff, and COVID was going on, and I was really stressed out. So I ended up buying a bunch of drugs, and I hadn't been doing drugs for a really long time, but I bought a lot of Xanax, like many bars of Xanax. We got a bunch of money from so we had a bunch of extra money because we got a settlement payout from some guy hitting our car, and that's another long story. That was crazy. He was following us around and yelling and screaming and freaking out, and he slams into our car, and so that hurt our backs, and so we got money. And anyways, I bought all of this Xanax, and I was really out of my mind, and I ended up wanting to buy different drugs. And so while I'm on Xanax, I wanted to buy different drugs. And so my wife's out of town, so I'm being a bad boy, right? So because she doesn't know, that I'm going through all of this like trouble, like, so I'm bipolar and I was having a problem and all of this and COVID and everything like that. So I go through my phone trying to like all of the old numbers that I still had left in my contacts from when I used to be a drug addict. And I was asking people in the area, like, hey, can you get any of this other drug? And somebody was like, no, like, this isn't even the person that you're trying to talk to. And then they're like, wait a second, what did you want? And so I went and I met him. Like, I drove for an hour and a half to get there. And so I get there, and while I'm on the Xanax, she steals a bunch of my money. And she just leaves. So she wasn't really, like, since I was out of my mind, I didn't realize that I was getting got. And so she had me park so here. She still hasn't come back. So I go and knock on the door and park. And like, I'm at my mom's moment. I'm like barely awake or alive. And so these people come to the door and they're being all rude to me and stuff. And I was like, I just want to know where that woman went and where is my wallet. I don't care if she takes the money. I just want my wallet. And they're like, man, we don't even know what you're talking about, man. And I'm like, dude, you guys are hood as fuck. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So I wouldn't leave them alone. They kept on shutting the door, and I wouldn't leave them alone. I went and I like followed the noises of where they were walking to their back door, and I started like knocking on that. Like, I wouldn't leave them alone. And finally, like, 3 of them came out and they jumped my ass. Like, they wrecked me. And so they were about to keep going, and it was about to get worse and worse, right? And
They're about to pull your
I
pants
noticed
down
that
and shit.
something, it was going to get worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was at that point that I was like, okay, like, even though I don't really know what's going on, I don't know where I am, I must fight back or do something, because like I'm about to get really wrecked. And I notice a brick on the floor. And so I barely remember any of this, but I remember enough to tell the story. Is I grabbed a brick and I picked it up, and I was like, I swear to God, if you guys don't stop right now, I will use this brick, right? And so, yeah, like, and they saw I was serious, and they stopped, they backed off. So I go and I get in my car and I drive, like, and I almost got away, and I would have just lost a wallet. But about 10 seconds later, a cop car sees me leaving this area, and somebody must have called the cops from that house, right? Like, we've got this weird intruder asking about a wallet. We don't know the fuck. It's 5 a.m. You know what I mean? And so I went to jail that night, and I had a horrible black eye. I was working at this like furniture center or whatever, and I told him, I was like, dude, some really bad stuff happened. Sorry, I couldn't make it to work today. And he was just like, you're fired. You're new. Like, you're already missing work. So I lost my job, went to jail, had to get bailed out by my dad, and I had like the most massive black eye. I think it was on both of my eyes, actually. It might have been just one, but I can't remember.
Like a
but it was horrible. After that, I ended up going to treatment to like get my meds right, and also like get off of Adderall, because it was like a long time coming to just like stop taking Adderall, because it was becoming a problem. It was a prescription I had, and that's that story. It's a real story.
That's a beautiful story. I remember one time I was in Los Angeles. If we're gonna just talk about dukkha, like just the beyond suffering, right? And it's a whole point of this episode is gonna be paradise rejection hypothesis. But let's start with black eyes. So one time I'm in Los Angeles and I'm walking around thinking about the god Jupiter and Zeus, and I'm holding these like chopsticks with my other hand because my, what do you call it, your strong hand, like whether you're right-handed or left-handed, what do you call that? Your
dominant hand.
Your dominant hand. So I was holding my chopsticks in my undominant hand, right? I was trying to say, man, I got to learn how to be more ambidextrous. So for the rest of the semester, I'm going to be only writing with my other hand and not using my dominant hand. I'll be keeping my hand behind my back. So I'd also studied how Hitler was into Rosicrucianism, and the big thing where he walks around with his hand behind his back, it's because he's walking with his dominant hand behind his back, because Hitler was trained to think that for the first 30 years you should use your dominant hand and be an artist, etc., and then you should switch to your less than dominant hand so that your brain grows more and you have more strength in your mind. And apparently by doing this for like 30 years, it can also cause both hemispheres of the brains to become more independent, as if you had a stroke. But if you didn't have a stroke and you have your dominant brain still, then eventually both brains become dominant and they start sending signals that argue with each other. And so this can lead to weird conditions, like essentially something similar to Parkinson's disease, which Hitler was shaky a lot of the time. And it wasn't just because of the amphetamines and the medications he was taking because of this, but also because he was training to use both his hands. Anyway, so I'm using my undominant hand. And then there's these like kids, of various diverse backgrounds, like, different races, etc. And then they started like harassing me at some point, and somebody didn't like my shirt because I was wearing like a Hawaiian shirt, or maybe it was because I was wearing like maroon jeans, because it was Los Angeles. This was Venice Beach, Santa Monica, and this I dressed like a Disney kid at the time because I'd broken up with my girlfriend in Santa Cruz, and I used to wear like a speaker wire as a belt with a pair of Jinko jeans and no shoes, and I was one of those, right? So I wanted to be different after that. And I was like, well, you know what you do if you break up with your girlfriend, or if your girlfriend breaks up with you, is you become a new man, kind of the way Hitler was trying to do with his hand or something. So I'm going to wear like, I'll become a different thing and a better thing. And to me, for whatever reason, at 19 years old, it was to become a Disney kid, to dress like they did on the Disney Channel. So I was going to wear like matching shoes to my matching colored pants to my matching hoodie, and have 3 different colors on my shoe and 3 different colors on my hoodie, and they'd be inverse. And I wore all these bright colored things. But at this time, I wasn't even wearing that weird of an outfit. It was just a Hawaiian shirt and a pair of maroon, kind of like dusty punch reddish jeans.
It's offensive enough.
It was different. This is something that these kids couldn't wear at their school. So this kid calls me, I forget if he called me a queer or if he used the F, if he called me, something else. But I said something really probably you shouldn't say to, a kid who's been beaten by their parents and lives in like a bad part of town and like has a suffering life. I was like, it's interesting you're thinking so much about gay. Like it's like unprompted. Your mind is just thinking about gay thoughts all the time.
The old, it's on your shit. It's on your mind.
You should probably think about why that is. And that wasn't probably the right thing to say to this kid with his like gang of friends. So they attacked me and were like punching me in the head over and over again. It was just like, oh God, now I'm in this for real. And I got this very remote view vibe. I just pulled out of my body and I'm looking down over the street of Santa Monica Boulevard in Venice Beach at Watseka, actually, at the corner where I'm at. I'm like, wow, this is actually like happening. And I'd already been kind of in this sort of disassociated state ever since my girlfriend and I broke up, because I had a really hard time with it, because she and I had been girlfriend and boyfriend for like 4 years. And when you're 19 or 20, 4 or 5 years is like a quarter of your life. And you start to think, it's like this proportionality thing that makes it more intense. So the best way I came up to deal with it, lying on my floor, not eating and except for like seaweed for weeks at a time, was, I guess, nothing exists at all except for the moment that you're in, and every single moment is in a parallel process.
The
right?
fasting enlightenment. Yeah.
So like CUDA and NVIDIA was like just releasing this idea of like hyper threading, where you had multiple processes going on multiple chips, and they figure out the order of operations, and then they can do them. So I was already starting to think about how the universe was like that. But then suffering was part of this as well, because if you have this experience that you've been with someone for half of your life or a quarter of your life, and then they're gone, maybe they die, or maybe they break up with you. If you're feeling this new suffering, maybe like you lose an arm or something like that, even, God forbid, then you're thinking, oh my God, like, how am I ever going to go on? But that's all synthetic, like a robot that's been given like fake memories.
The animal.
You're just this moment right now. And when you came to in this moment, they shaped the sand, the gods put you into this symmetry and told you these fake memories that had to be for you to move forward and make your choice right now. So all of a sudden, like, what am I? Well, you're a being, and you're young, and you've been in love for many years, and it's been taken from you. Or, oh, you used to have an arm, but now you don't have an arm, and you have to learn to live without it, right? These kinds of thoughts. So I was already thinking about that a lot. I'm like, wow, this must be crazy. Right now, I am a new being being born into suffering, where I'm being just beaten. Like, imagine you're born, and the first thought you have is, why are they hitting me, right? That kind of thing. Like the whale in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, who's all of a sudden materialized out of a teacup, and he's falling in space, and he's free falling, and the whale's first thought is like, wow, I'm a whale, I'm in the sky, what is this? I think I'll call it the sky, it's beautiful, and I'm flying. And then what's this? Oh, there's this big flat thing on below me, I guess I'll call it ground. I wonder if ground and I will be friends. Bang, and then it dies. It's like the only thoughts that this whale had, because it's the only existence it ever knew. Right. Yeah. So that was kind of how I felt. I was like, I'm being beaten. That's my new life.
But the key difference is the whale dies. You don't. You survive that.
We don't know, though, because if the whale dies, the whale just becomes a corpse, and then the corpse becomes like microorganisms.
No.
Colony, and the colony becomes a species eventually.
I mean, you survived your hitting ground moment, which is you getting punched in the head, and then you survived that, and then you live through that, and the worst shit you actually live through, you look around, and then eventually it reaches a threshold where it's like, okay, clearly I've eaten more shit than like some of the people that I've seen in my life, and that's just the way it is. Some people eat more shit in life, and then like once you survive that, then you start having the thought of, like, no matter how bad these lifetimes get, assuming reincarnation is real, I think it helps to get to a point where it's like, I'll do this as many fucking times as it takes. Like, I'm not scared of that anymore. Not in this lifetime anyway. Like, I could do this all day. If you really insist on keeping me here, fine. I'll be grateful for it. Like, what are you going to do with that? It's your move now. I'm just grateful.
I think there's something to that. I think that maybe consciousness jumps from one experience to the other, but creates a line of continuity. So you tomorrow is not you today, but maybe there is a tie from your soul from one arrangement of atoms to another arrangement of atoms. So they're like, you can't step in the same river twice. But this is, maybe I'm just saying that because suffering makes you want to have disassociation, disconnection, and lack of continuity. Whereas pride maybe gives you this idea of authority or ownership of your past. So you're saying, well, I made these choices. I'm proud of the choices I made. They're, why I'm moving forward. It's like, I am made of all of my choices, which could be true also, but it just seems like the way physics works, it's more that you're now this new being that believes that they're this being in the past who's made good choices. And that could be that your soul is jumping to a new symmetry that's designed around this. I mean, it's both real.
I mean, in like more, like, I guess in the stupid way, if you were to explain it to me, I would say like, let's see. Oh yeah, the one thing that every lifetime would have in common is you live the beginning of your life, like the beginning half or maybe most of it, unaware of like a higher consciousness or unaware of a concept of a soul, like just strictly grounded in materialist needs and issues or whatnot. And then you finally reach that point where you even consider it, and it kind of lights that fuse. And then, yeah, like you said, it jumps symmetry. So in a sense, like, you can't say you'll make the same life decisions if it was a sincere, earnest experience of, I don't know, discovering your inner child, making peace with your inner child, discovering your soul, doing your shadow work, whatever you want to put it, like however you want to call it. You're essentially a different person. So that, I think, is consistent across just human experience. It's like, they're just living their life. It's like, oh, I hope I don't freeze to death. I hope I don't starve. I hope I don't get eaten. And then it's like, once you manage to get over those obstacles, those material obstacles, then it's like, what am I anyway? Am I just this body? Am I just these thoughts? Am I just these emotions? And it's like, oh, and then once you go down that route, you come out of it like a different person. So you could look back at all the fucked up shit you did and you're like, technically I wasn't the same person like when I did those things. I mean, not that I should overlook those things, they're still a part of me, but I wasn't my full self. I don't think, like, you know, you could kind of reason it that way if you so choose. Like if you're struggling with your past decisions.
What's the the cool thing is that what you're making think of is that for the end of there was the good ending to that story is because I went to treatment. I ended up going to court. It was going to be a felony charge. I was like, oh God, I'm going to be a felon because of like this attempted assault charge and everything. But because I went to treatment and took care of that, like as court was going on, by the time I finished, they not only reduced it to a misdemeanor in court, but then after everything, the dust settled and everything, my lawyer was able to get it reduced to like the lowest level misdemeanor. So what could have been like something that like wrecked my entire life actually was transmuted into something that like was the beginning of the rest of my life, and ended up not being a big deal. It was really lucky.
That was your tower moment, as the New Agers and the tarot people like to call it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kurt, have you ever been punched in the face?
Yes.
You missed our stories. I'll tell you. I'm halfway through mine. I'll tell you the second half of mine after you tell me yours.
Sure, why not? Great to see everybody here. Sorry.
Those are nice pants. I like them. They feel warm. Like
no, this is a blanket. This is a blanket.
Oh, that's even better. Because you know, like in the old days, only slaves and women wore pants, right? And men wore togas, which were basically blankets. So I think you're actually more manly. You're timelessly masculine right now. So congratulations.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, short notice today. I just happened to I was sleeping. I'm
trying to move the classes earlier, you know, because there's something about those morning classes that just has a vibe, and I miss them for some reason, you know. But yeah, continue, sir.
For sure. Okay. Basically, to make the long story short, I'll summarize. There's always two sides to a story, of course, but I was in high school. You're probably a completely different person in high school, of course. Most people are. But I felt like in high school, I was getting bullied by this one particular dude. So first I punched him in the face, and then he punched me back in the face. And that's how it went. And a little bit of he did break my nose. That was good for him. But then we both got probation. Then we both got probation, a little slap on the wrist because you're under 18, you know, that's how it goes. And then we played on the football team for each other the next year and never punched each other in the face again. A really heartwarming story.
That's not bad. I like that one. That's pretty cool.
That makes me feel good inside.
So you are part of the Black Ice soul scalping ritual. And why is it soul scalping, right? Like, what is it about like having yourself knocked almost completely unconscious and like maybe even having some brain damage that makes you feel like your soul has been like moved from one place to another? I mean, like I was explaining, Kurt, that I was punched by like 3 or 4 different guys at the same time in Los Angeles in I think 2010. And
you got jumped.
I got jumped. That's actually correct. I was jumped. And it was technically a hate crime, which is my, like, again, afterwards thinking about it was really interesting. It's like, what's happening right now? Is this really happening? And I felt like I was a new being that had been created around this scenario, that this scenario was the only real thing. And I'm just sort of the processes in a giant supercomputer that are being told, you're Andreas. It is 2010.
They hated you because you were gay, right?
Well, they hated me because I was wearing pinkish pants, and because I told the guy who said something about gay clothing that thinking about gay unprompted like that means his mind is constantly thinking about gay, and he should probably
he's obsessed with the gay.
You should probably figure out why you're obsessed with gay thoughts, you know, which was probably the wrong thing to say to somebody who, you know, solves their problems not with vernacular, but with this, right? You know, and had their friends with them as well. So they started punching me, and I was like, this is crazy. So for about 20 meters, I was dragging these 3 guys while they're punching me in the head. And I'm Slavic, so you can hit me in the head. It's going to hurt your hand more than it's going to hurt my head. but I am punching them back as well. And apparently I punched off 2 of the guys, like, because I'm only really able to be aware of this after this fact. But I get us into a restaurant. Like, I pull us into this restaurant because I figured, like, then they're kind of entrapped in here, or someone might do something. I was so young, you know, I thought people might like do something, like everyone's a ninja like Chris, and they're all gonna stand up and try to like block the door or keep a violent crazy kid in this place. Of course not, like, right? No one's calling anybody. This is also early enough, I think 2009 or 10, that there weren't people recording everything yet either. It wasn't like the thing to do, so people were just kind of staring there, like watching this thing, making like loud millennial noises. And yeah, and then 2 of them disappeared off because, like, I think I caused some damage to the body of one of them, and then I might have broken like the nose of one and like the arm of the, or the, you know, the wrist of the other, or something like that. Like, it was, but the one guy was trying to hit me down on the ground in this restaurant. And finally he realized, and I'm just punching him in the face. And, you know, I don't think he was expecting like a lesbian vegan Californian to be able to punch him in the face. But I took karate actually as a kid. So I'm not like great or anything, you know, but I did. Yeah. I thought when I was young, things I thought you really needed to know, one of the top ones was karate. Because every movie I'd seen as a kid was like about karate people. Everyone solved all their problems with karate. It was part of the 80s and 90s that you had to, like, Sylvester Stallone versus Steven Seagal. And like, obviously Steven Seagal's going to win unless Sylvester Stallone gets punched in the face so much it doesn't matter anymore, right? So those are your 2 kind of dichotomies there. And then plus the if he dies, he dies Dolph Lundgren experience, right? Anyway, I'm on the ground and the guy starts trying to get to my cell phone and my wallet. And for whatever reason, I was more worried at the time about my wallet, which was not because I had a lot of money. I had like maybe $100 at the most. I doubt it. It was probably like 40. I don't remember. But I did have my school student ID card, my driver's license, and I'm like 600 miles from home, and, you know, a credit card or a debit card. I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't want to lose those things and have to go deal with the paperwork and phone calls.
This is weird how we were both fixated on wallets in these situations of being jumped. It's interesting.
And I never used a wallet again until this year. After this story, by the way. After that, I only used
swore off wallets.
Swore off for a lot of reasons.
But too much trouble.
I overanalyzed everything, and at the time I was super into Hinduism because you know that dream, this is a whole other story, but you know that dream where you're like naked and you're walking through Los Angeles? Well, that happened to me in real life because I left some clothes on my car when I went swimming one time, and I ended up like in my boxers without my clothes. Or was it like on my friend's car or something like that? I just took off my pants and shirt and left it there to go swimming in Los Angeles, and they were stolen. So now all of a sudden I'm like naked in Los Angeles, basically. And I'm in my boxers. That's actually more of a dream, is when you're like in your underwear or something. So I'm walking through Los Angeles, and I'm walking for like 6 blocks, and I go from the beach down Watseka towards Venice Boulevard, and I come to the Hindu temple area. And a couple weeks earlier, I'd been at a bonfire at the beach, and I'd met my friend Tuvia, whose parents invented the Paris Hilton hairstyler. He's like the son of a rabbi and of a you know, like product salesman, basically. And he had like $120,000 Mercedes when he was a kid, because his parents just gave it to him, but he's complaining it was going to cost $30,000 to unlock some new features. So I took him to a little Armenia, where I had a friend who came from the Soviet Union in Armenia, who was a programmer and a hacker, and he was able to fix his Mercedes. And so we were always friends for life. But one of the guys who was with us was this kid named Sabri, who I've had on the show before, and he was a Hare Krishna. His mother was the casting director for Grandma's Boy in a number of important movies, and he was supposed to be the kid in the Scorpion Kid. Although our other friend, Teddy, ended up the Scorpion Kid in the Scorpion King. Teddy, who can play the trumpet really well. And so that destroyed their lives, because I don't think he ever acted in a movie again after the Scorpion Kid. But it really emotionally damaged Sabri, because he was trying to be this kid and he thought he was going to be famous. And I even have videos of him that I saw before I met him, because I would watch television and I would see commercials for Gundam action figures, and he was doing all the childhood commercials for the Gundam action figures in the United States. So I'd know him before I knew him, kind of a thing. But he never was allowed to have Gundam because his parents were Hare Krishnas and they were against it. Anyway, they gave me a pair of pants that were these green tartan plaid, like H&M looking pants. And all of a sudden I looked so LA, more LA than I'd ever looked before. And they gave me this like gray shirt covered in Sanskrit mantra prayers. And I felt super protected. Plus I'd taken Sanskrit as a kid. So they welcomed me into their house where their mother was giving them this like bindi strap ritual, which is where you get initiated into the Brahmin priesthood. And she had an extra strap for some unknown reason. I think it's because she had a younger son who wasn't ready for the ritual. And she knew I could speak Sanskrit and do all the prayers. So she did this weird fire ritual and decided that she was going to bond her soul to mine and give me the Brahmin priesthood. I forget why that mattered. Anyway, so yeah, I was thinking about Hare Krishnaism and the wallet. That's why, because the wallet is this dead cow, usually like this leather thing that you put your money into. And I've been thinking about that because a few weeks earlier, I'd been at my apartment and I had this plastic trash bag, this bin that I got at IKEA, and it was plastic. And I noticed that my trash can was getting filled more and more with plastic. And I was thinking, is this like some sort of metaphysical magnetism that plastic likes more plastic? And so it gathers around plastic. And maybe this is why the oceans have these like plastic islands that are starting to form. And wouldn't it be better if I use like a Trader Joe's paper bag in like a wooden or a wicker bucket? Would that make a different change? And then I did that. And all of a sudden I stopped having 90% of the plastic in my life just disappeared. Like things weren't being wrapped in plastic. The stores I was going to were using paper bags. I had all sorts of like wooden and cardboard things that were showing up. And I thought there really is something to this, that if you avoid plastic, that you're going to end up having less plastic in your life. And the same thing with leather. I was like, if you have leather in your life and you're touching, it's a dead cow, a sacrificial dead cow that's holding your money. What does that do to your money? And shouldn't you put your money in something a little bit more positive, you know, like I don't know, like a Bible, like that's been recycled, or maybe a wallet made of money. Like, you know how you can buy like strips of failed bills and you can weave them together, and or maybe a duct tape wallet. And so for a while I tried using a duct tape wallet before I switched to fanny pack.
And suddenly you just woke up every day wrapped in duct tape.
Yeah, you got to be really careful about how this stuff works. I think that's the thing.
Is there any way that you
manifesting,
could make it
ladies and
out of
gentlemen.
light?
Make it out of
You could
light.
make a wallet out of light somehow. Light, you know, like
Oh, yeah, that'd
is
be
there
like
anything,
fiber optic.
any material that has a lot to do with light that we can make a wallet out of?
If you use fiber optic, couldn't you like trap light in your wallet? So your wallet would just be a light wallet. That's kind of a good idea.
Or it's more then you're going into territory where it's like, what about energy? Wouldn't energy be the most fundamental currency? How do we quantify that?
Ponder
I was
that.
actually
Go ahead.
recently experimenting with I heard you from off the podcast and I just had to run in. I was experimenting recently with actually an acoustic fiber technology. It's really interesting. You can actually transmit your voice from like one place to another over just a piece of string with like two cups on the end of it. How you guys doing?
You can do that.
I like this idea. Like the
So-
kids with the cups.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's an acoustic fiber.
Oh yeah, that tracks. I mean, that's the thing. I think it works really well though. And they used to use that's another thing Hitler did, right? Because he did the messaging, and he was a message courier during World War I, and he'd have to run a line with a electric
Hitler.
wire. Well, I'm just saying, like things he did, because earlier we were talking about how he kept his hand behind his back, so
He
that
was
he
an
would have to
interesting
use
dude.
his left hand to
He did a
write.
lot of things.
He switched from his right hand to his left hand. I mean, I think that's like a crazy interesting. That's why he's got the shakes, because he stopped using.
Does
his
it really
dominant
make
hand.
your brain grow more?
It not only makes your brain grow more, both hemispheres. It's like if you had a stroke, the other brain takes over. But if you didn't have a stroke,
I'm 34.
then
Is it too late, or can I do it now?
No, from 30, you're supposed to start doing it for the next 30 years.
Nice.
Yeah, you have to
I've
literally
tried.
like hold your other hand behind your back for 30 years and then only use this hand.
It's a lot easier to write with your left hand if you do it backwards.
That's true.
I've always
I'll
thought-
flip
You
flop.
can
My
actually,
left
if you
hand,
write
I've noticed-
mirrored with both hands first, then you can kind of just take away the right hand.
I think there's
Then
other
you
ways
look
to
like you're a
exercise
demon.
it.
If you can write in Latin like that, then you're really set.
Right.
I've
think
noticed
there's
that I do
different ways.
graffiti a lot better with my left hand. Like writing with my left hand looks a lot more artistic. Maybe just because it's so hard to write with it that it end up like it just looks different than what I'm used to saying. So
like
if
that
I
movie
write with my
Monkey
left
Bone.
hand, it
I
looks
mean-
like you know, and supposedly it's like connected to your artistic brain or whatever more. But I don't know.
Left-handed.
I'm slightly artistic.
I think if you really want to
Yeah.
exercise that shit, you can't just focus on the hands. You also have to do feet. I mean, I think of like boxing, for example. There's like guys that are like southpaw and then they fight the other side. And I think you should exercise both. And also with skateboarding, there's a lot
That's
of
where
pros. Yeah, there's a lot of pros who are like, yeah, I did that in Switch, bro. Like, check it
Yeah.
out.
Wait,
And it
in
just
your
it looks like a
discipline,
regular,
Chris,
yeah.
That's
do you
what
put
I
your
did
dominant
that
hand
too.
forward or back in your discipline? Like, is that the front hand or the back hand in your martial art?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really do like hand shit, but if it was me, I would say just do whatever you have to do to not telegraph. That's the biggest thing. If you're
What's
fighting
telegraph?
someone, telegraphing is like right before you throw a punch, you give a tell. Whether it's like where
Oh.
your
Yeah, don't
eyes
wind
shift.
up. Just start
Yeah,
from
or-
where you're at.
Not even that. It's anything. It could be like a change in facial expression.
That's like
it could be your eyes widening. If you could eliminate telegraphs, then you're set. But that takes like actual discipline, you know. And, like,
That's
technique.
practice.
Yeah.
You can tell when somebody's like a decently new skilled fighter because they look like a Boy Scout on their face when they're like doing something right.
There you go. So I didn't want to have the leather wallet, but at the time I did anyway, and then I didn't use one after this because what ended up happening was I was able to defend. I've been punched in the face. 3 guys. I knock off 2 of them. One of them comes with me. I pull them into a restaurant. It's like a vegan restaurant on the corner of Watseka and Venice Beach, just down by the beach there. And people are like yelling and being vegan. Yeah. I should have
By
gone
the
into the
beach.
Subway. There's a Subway right next door. I don't know what I was thinking, because then it would have at least had like Sikh kids, you know, who know they probably have swords at least to like scare him. I don't know. Anyway,
there were a Waffle House.
Down
grab
by
it.
the beach.
I grab a chair and I start hitting him with the chair, and then for some reason his friends yell like, "Get his phone!" And then the kid goes for my phone, and I don't have time to stop it. And my phone, I mean, my wallet might have had up to $100, probably 40, but my phone had poems and all this, you know, eloquent Andreasisms that I thought were so important to me at the time, and pictures of my life. Yeah, you know, but this is 2010, so it's like organic and virginal. Like these thoughts are, you know, new to me, and so like I even think they're more valuable than they probably are at the time, because I'm not aware of how many other people have had thoughts before. You know, I only know so much about what other people. I've had access to that stuff because my dad, you know, used to be like, "What is it? Would it be like if if you were, you know, like if everyone was just an idea in your head, and then you just like take me to the philosophy section of the library and be like, look, there's the A, B, C, D. We're getting into Descartes. Read this one. It's like 300 pages. Read all of them before you ask questions, because 99% of all of your questions, probably 100 of them, have been asked by philosophers throughout all history. And they spent their entire, like each guy spent his entire life on one of those questions. So if you know how they thought about it, then you'll probably be able to like pick up where they left off and ask better questions moving forward. That was basically his logic. So anyway, my phone gets taken and I'm really sad about it. I'm like, oh man, and I did this all for the stupid wallet, which I used to like buy dream crushing things, right? Because if you live in you go in America, you have this idea of getting your own dream, but if you go to LA, after a little while, at first you're thinking, I'm gonna finally be able to accomplish my own dream here, but really what happens is you see some kid on a polka dot skateboard and you're like, oh, maybe my dream is to have a polka dot skateboard, you know, and you sacrifice a little bit of your original dream so you can have that polka dot skateboard. And then you do that all the time. Like maybe what I really want is like that surfer shirt from that 80s movie, so that I look, you know, and I should get these pants and I should wear these DCs, because these shoes that say DC on them, they're so big and they look like they're bigger than any skateboarder shoe I ever saw as a child, right? That destroys your dreams. Holy God, Vincent, your glitch is out of. Oh, okay, I miss it now. I was actually
my camera.
Oh, there we
oh,
go.
Yeah,
so,
there it is.
yes.
The Matrix is breaking.
We are talking about the Matrix, actually.
Yeah, I know.
because-
That's what I saw.
Cool. Yeah, because the Duca. So I'm almost to it. I promise.
Do you have an animal chewing on your webcam cable?
No, it's just me chewing on it.
Yeah. So last part of my rant. I know this is really ridiculous. I've been telling it for like 30 minutes, but so I get my wrist broken, and it's my left wrist, which is my dominant hand, and I still have now because of this a plate in my wrist right here from breaking my wrist at this time, and I couldn't.
So you're like Wolverine,
and it's titanium. So I'm in my mind right before all this. I was holding chopsticks in my less dominant hand, my right hand, trying to learn how to use them because I was telling myself, man, you need to be able to use your other hand in case something happened to your hand. You'd want to be able to just immediately start using your other hand. So you should be practicing to use that hand. And the next thing that happened was I'm in finals and doing all my tests and all the schoolwork, and it's all by hand, and you all have to use your left, you have to use your dominant hand. So I had to switch and use my less dominant hand, just like I felt like I was foretold, just like I was worried about, like I had this intuition about right before it happened. Yeah, and I decided to never use a wallet again, basically. I think that's the most important part of my story.
I like wallets.
Well, I will point out that Colin is wearing a Cthulhu shirt, so maybe he opened the mouth of madness, and that's why things are as they are.
Colin has the mouth of madness. I believe in it.
I've read that book so many times.
That does explain a lot.
So the whole point of why we started talking about getting punched in the face and suffering is because of the title of the episode's Paradise Rejection Hypothesis. And we've been thinking about how in the Matrix, Morpheus is enslaved and being interrogated and tortured, right, by the Smith agent. And the
I think Smith cares more about people than Morpheus does in that movie, because Morpheus literally just wants to like sacrifice them all for his ideology, but Smith is actually like taking them from this inhospitable earth and literally, since he is the Matrix, taking care of all the humans and giving them a place where they can not only live, but also thrive, live, play, enjoy each other's company, have a piece of steak, you know? What's Morpheus offers them? Come live in a cave and eat slop with us?
You mean Cypher? Cypher is the character you're talking about.
No, I think Smith cares about people because he gives them a place to live. Smith is the agent. Yeah, because he gives them.
Smith is the one. He enables the steak eating.
Cypher only cares about himself.
He wants to get the fuck out though because he hates it. He's like, I fucking hate being trapped in this cave.
Yeah,
you stinking.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really buy.
He wants to get into the real world. He wants.
Yeah, I don't buy the categorization that he cares more. He cares about himself. He cares about himself, and he wants everyone to be just like him.
I think Cypher just wants to be a regular guy.
Doesn't he become that one?
He doesn't care about anyone else.
He's got a screwdriver behind his back.
I feel like Smith is clearly Lucifer or Satan in that kind of.
No, I think Smith is the one.
No, Cypher is Lucifer. That's why he's Lucifer.
No, he's Judas. Cypher's Judas.
Lucifer.
Judas betrays for 30 pieces of silver. So Cypher's Judas.
I like to think his first name is Lou. Okay.
Lucifer. Okay. Yeah, but still, Judas Iscariot is a character who betrays his people that are freeing him, his Messiah,
for 30 pieces of
but
steak.
Lucifer betrays
steak.
Hey,
it's like $7,000.
Lucifer betrays God, right?
Did you ever realize that Agent Smith is an agent Smith? Like he makes other agents. He's also an Agent Smith.
Yeah, Agent Smith, because they're Smiths, they're like Masons.
He's Smith's agents, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that he's not, what did you say, betraying God? Because what does Lucifer end up doing? Lucifer ends up tempting people, archetypically, so that when people go against this test, there's something that they really accomplish.
Yeah, that's like an undercover
cop. The thing is, look, the whole process is part of the algorithm, right? It's part of the prophecy. So Cypher didn't actually, like, he's serving a function by betraying them, just like Agent Smith is serving a function by betraying them, by betraying even other agents, by betraying the Matrix itself. It's all part of the process. So, you know, who is Lucifer Judas? Maybe, but I don't think Judas was that happy about betraying Jesus, while Cypher was very, very happy about getting the stake, you know?
I don't know.
Judas commits suicide. Cypher just keeps betraying until the end, you know.
But besides that, the real interesting part is that the Matrix went through several iterations, and the one where everything was fucking perfect was collectively rejected by humanity for some strange reason.
Well,
as if it's just not. Yeah, exactly. It's like
right.
you rob us of our free will.
The thing is,
Take time on that. Yeah. Hold on.
It's
go ahead.
it's not realistic, I guess, and people like
No,
it's that
like,
it's the thorn in the mind. People can't.
Would you rather
people-
live in Nirvana or samsara? That's the question.
Well,
I'd
define
rather be
live.
the
But-
last person on Samsara.
I'd
I'm gonna
rather
wait till
be-
you guys.
yeah,
all
but
I'd
go.
rather. I'd
It
rather
would have
become
been an
the.
artificial Nirvana. Like it wouldn't have been real Nirvana, so you'd reject it
It's a
because it's too
metaphor.
perfect, but it's not perfect enough.
It's not just a metaphor. I
Right?
think if you imagine
Right.
what the Mormons and what Christians talk about, the differences of Buddhism and etc., it's all about what happens in eternity. So if you're eternally in suffering versus, which is kind of what reincarnation is this idea that
Well,
you're
it's like the
constantly going
Garden of
through-
Eden.
Well,
The first Matrix is like the garden.
If you
Right?
have
Like,
eternal,
it's just
you
what
have
I'm
eternal-
thinking.
If
I
you
don't
have
think it's
eternal
suffering. I
hold
think
on.
it's either
If
you're
you have eternal
occupied or
paradise,
you're not.
if you have eternal paradise, you get really bored. Imagine
Mhm.
just always being happy for
Yeah,
6
Eve
billion
got bored
years.
as fuck.
Right.
thing
It's,
is-
it's what the Church of the Subgenius talks
And then
about.
the
Slack.
snake
You're
comes
either-
up when she's really bored.
if
No,
paradise
you're
is
either-
if paradise
you're
is
the
perfection, then you can't change when you're in the perfect
Show her a
state.
good time.
Like you can't. There's no evolving. There's no pressure to grow or do anything like that. So the Matrix categorizes it as like a system that is oppressive, but I don't think that reality is the same thing as the movie The Matrix. Obviously, so
it was 1999. It felt like.
I mean, it felt real, but that's just how powerful the illusion of Hollywood is. Like people were so convinced, yeah, the Matrix is literally real, exactly as portrayed in this film. And I mean, okay, maybe, but it's not like if everyone who wears leather is like cool, like so. So I just think that like it's more complex than that. And in films, The Matrix, when Neo gets out of the Matrix and he loses his vision, he loses false vision and gains true sight, and he can see the real code of the real world. And it's a golden matrix, and that is the real Matrix, basically. And there is where God's domain is, and he can rule over humanity and program everything and help everyone grow to where they're supposed to be, while the Matrix is more like the demiurge system that keeps people and feeds off of them like a vampiric system.
I think the most unrealistic part of that series was the fact that they were harvesting electricity and not like consciousness energy.
Well,
but
the
I guess
actual-
that was
Well,
too
originally, the original
Yeah.
script was that it was supposed to create a neural network using all the people who were in prison in order to power the Matrix.
that makes sense,
But then they were like, no, people won't get that. That's too complicated.
It's too
Neural network.
Complicated for
Stupid.
people.
It's
Yeah.
1999. Come on,
I
guys.
have a theory that the Matrix and Jurassic Park actually take place in the same universe, and they were using the dinosaurs as batteries to power the fences.
Technically, that's true.
I think every movie takes place in the real universe of
Oil.
our universe. So.
I
Blowing
think
my
you're
mind.
just talking about oil at that point. But dukkha is that idea of suffering, but it's not suffering the way. I mean, there's all these words for love in Greek, and I guess in Buddhist, like in Chinese and Tibetan or whatever, at least in Hindu and in Sanskrit, there's probably a lot of words for different kinds of suffering. So it's not like physical pain necessarily. That's like part of the naraka in some of them, but generally it's the suffering of unsatisfaction, the lack of satisfaction. So
Well, yeah,
you're
it's like
constantly
in-
looking to make and achieve something, right?
It's like in
I wonder
in
if
Subgenius, when you have
Smith
Slack.
was the snake in the first Matrix.
Pretty
Like, I
much.
wonder what brought him out. What if Smith was really old program? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, it's part of the algorithm. He's part of the he was prophesized just as much as Neo, right? Like he's the Antichrist to the Christ. So that's it. The Antichrist is the supreme assimilator, the dissolver of like individuals in order to
Well,
serve a higher
what-
state, or the lower state rather.
One theory, as suggested even by scripture, is that humans are by default agents of change. So if you put a human in like a surroundings that's just all good, then they're bound to eventually change it to be somewhat bad and it all falls apart. Or if you do the inverse and put an agent of change in a bad setting, and they're bound to make things a little better because everything was already
Mhm.
shit. So
We're
it's
like novelty generators.
Exactly. So the trick is to like keep them in this constant state of flux where they're
Novelty.
transmuting back
Right.
and forth between good and bad.
So that picture of that monk there, that was what I sent you last time, Chris. The monk that
Yeah,
swore to not leave samsara until all souls are liberated.
I identify
And-
with that. I like that because like it's not that I like samsara. It's just
No,
I'm
I
not
do identify
Is that
with
what
that as well.
Is that what a
It's the-
bodhisattva is?
One at a
This
time,
is
fellas.
a
One at a
person
time.
this is a person who rejected being a bodhisattva, and he will reach bodhisattva once all souls are liberated. And this, to me, connects to the shamanic tradition of sin eaters. And sin eaters basically are a form of scapegoats. They consume people's sins so that they can have less karmic debt in the next life. And there's a book out there called Judas, which is about Judas after he betrays Christ, and Christ basically Judas goes to hell because he commits suicide, and then there he's tempted by Lucifer or Satan to reject Christ and to basically hate God, and then Jesus dies on the cross and he goes to hell, and then he's in hell basically serving all of the
But Judas could have asked for forgiveness, but he was
that's the thing.
too.
So Jesus goes to hell, and then Jesus asks Judas for forgiveness because Judas was just part of God's plan. He didn't have a choice but to betray God, but to betray Jesus. It was all part of the divine plan. So that's what Satan is trying to tempt him with, going like, "Hey, you were just
somebody was going to have to betray him.
Like you are condemned to hell forever as part of the plan, you know." And so eventually Judas he forgives Jesus, and that's when Jesus manages to ascend and become a higher being. He resurrects, and then Judas becomes the saint of the damned, and he roams hell until all of hell is empty.
Hell yeah,
and I like that.
That's fun, you know, because
it's like Judas is just like he's become this figure of like, oh, you know, like hate this figure and stuff, and like obviously the traitor is not a positive figure, but if it's all part of God's plan, then like don't hate the plan, you know, like what are you gonna? Is it part of the plan that you hate Judas, or like, or do you?
It's like hating the dungeon master.
Well, I think the idea of such a plan, like this is, it rejects the creation. So if God created the world for everyone to have choice and then takes away choice to mod the system to have a specific outcome that goes against all of the choices made by the creation itself along the way, then it feels like it's breaking God's own creation. Like, I don't know if that's possible.
Judas's choice was in forgiving Christ, basically. You know, like you do get a choice at some point,
but only after he's in the ethereal Kali,
right,
or the Kalki, right?
Only once he's outside of the
Devapara,
outside of the matrix. So
once he's in the energy field, yeah.
So I think Chris is a reincarnation of that Buddha.
I'm just a regular guy.
I feel a little. I don't know. When I first found out about these people, I was like, "There's something there. Like we're in this cycle for a reason." And you know, after a certain amount of shamanic experiences, I came to the conclusion that all souls will be saved, and that that this isn't like some people are damned because it's planned. Like it's just it's part of the process, and reincarnation is at the end. And you know, like the Matrix, like you said, maybe it's been recoded to be like hell, but the kingdom of heaven is before us. It's within us. So it's all right here, right now. Hell, heaven, purgatory, like every in between.
So what do you think? What do you think they mean when they say that people were waking up from the Matrix when it was paradise or when it was perfect? So like, what about a perfect world? What would you do? What would happen to you in a perfect world? Maybe you like achieve enlightenment too quickly?
I think it's because people were imperfect. So they couldn't live in a perfect world because they were imperfect. The thorn in the mind that they describe in the first Matrix was massive. It was a log, you know, like as opposed to a thorn, because the problems of the world keep us distracted from our lack of enlightenment. They make us keep going in the cycle.
I think it's really that people just need goals. Like it's Philip Seymour Hoffman syndrome. When you've totally mastered your craft and you have more money than you know what to do with, most people will sit around doing drugs until they die. So you need to have something to chase. And if you have nothing to need, then you're screwed. Samsara is literally preferable to nirvana. You would lose your mind if you had nothing to worry about. That's why you have
I do think
nervous system. You have a nervous system for a reason. It's to keep you nervous.
I think that's
If
a very
it's not
reasonable
evil, then
take.
it's extraneous.
I think that's a reasonable take. But however, if you actually did like for 1 second experience nirvana, then came back into your body, like maybe you'd be glad you survived and you'd be glad to be back in your
The
body. But I
secret
think for that
is-
moment, you'd be like, I don't want to go back.
I
The
agree,
real
like-
secret is that this is nirvana, my friends. There is
Moments
nothing
of-
better. This is the beatific vision right here.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's
I
all
agree with
about
that.
having the eye. Like if you don't have the eye to see nirvana, then you won't, right? And I think that like if nirvana is a state of being or a place, whatever, doesn't really matter. They're both the
Not
same to me.
different from samsara.
Well,
Yeah,
how-
but
how do you know that
if you experience nirvana for a moment, like you said, and that moment of bliss is enough to fuel meaning in your life, like that has value. If you're stuck in
What?
nirvana, that's another thing, you know.
How do you know that Nirvana or
heaven
heaven don't have?
Sorry, I want to hear what Parmesan said.
What benefit
Go
would
ahead.
chasing such a thing bring you?
There's no chasing. It's just experience.
Right.
Chasing
so then,
Nirvana.
like, how
chasing
would that? How
Nirvana
would you
is
set your
suicide.
life goals around that?
No,
Oh
it's not,
well,
it's not about.
I think it's just awareness of a divine source. Awareness.
So
of a
then, what does
divine
it
source.
change about you?
Okay,
It
that's
makes
what I'm
you-
saying.
It
That's the
adds
point.
perspective.
No,
I don't think
it
it'll
makes
change
it
a damn
change.
thing.
Yo,
If Gary's
dude, it doesn't.
enlightened and he's still a piece of shit.
It
It
made me better.
changes. It doesn't change anything material, but it can fundamentally change even the simplest decisions you make. Which, if you believe in cause and effect, that's everything. If you could
Mhm.
change your innermost state, directed more toward to align with your will, for example, you're going to make the simplest decisions that eventually add up to your objectives, whether they be good or whether they be bad, and that's important. It's like what Vincent said. It's awareness. It's not making goals around anything. You don't have to. Every goal
How
you
does
make
that
is going
relate
to be.
to nirvanic bliss?
Well, put it
It's
this way,
an
like
experience.
put it this way, I don't after that I don't have to have enemies anymore. I could just look at people, and if you want to do harm upon me, it's not that you're evil, it's not that you're a bad soul, it's just you don't fucking get it. And I could look at you that
play
way.
whatever character in the story you like.
Sure,
do
but
whatever
that
you
doesn't mean
want.
some people don't
whatever
know
you
that. Some people think they have to do terrible shit to you. And if you could find it in yourself to forgive them, then that's basically saying I see within you what's also within me.
But if
Whether
you
they're
find
your
that
worst
game
enemy.
fun, you can also engage it with them. Like I always say,
Yeah,
real
we do,
life
we
is-
do.
Prison
Yeah.
is like Grand Theft Auto. No matter what happens, you'll wake up in the hospital with no inventory and all your money missing.
Pretty much.
So
But-
is suffering the price of narrative
Well, just because you're aware of this
continuity?
shit doesn't mean you can't play the game. Sorry, Andreas. What do you say?
Maybe fate is suffering, you know, like having a predestined thing means that you don't have the liberty not to do it. So that generates suffering, but life generates suffering. So it could just be that suffering is kind of everywhere. you know?
Suffering is the
You
price
say that
of narrative continuity. That's the way that we're
Yeah.
listed earlier. It ties everything together because these are the costs of the actions that took place.
the algorithm.
Suffering is the
so you
soul
say
that makes
in Nirvana
something
that you'd
worth
go crazy because you'd have nothing to do, right? But like, how do you know that Nirvana or heaven or whatever? Like, how do you know that you're not like outside of time? That there is no time to get tired of or anything like that? When they say that heaven is perfect, like maybe like it really just is, like that it can be trusted, that there is nothing wrong with it. But then it is interesting and strange too, because then you have also like these perfect angels and this perfect heaven that are these perfect beings. Aside from not being God, they still rebelled in the story
Right.
that, you know, there was like supposedly a third of the angels, or however the story goes. There's so many different ways, but that they ended up, what made them to,
Well,
right? Because
I really enjoy having an animal body very much, and
And
I
you
think
fear
that's
losing
why
it.
the angels are jealous of us
Mhm.
because they can't taste or fuck or change. They're eternal.
yeah, they wanted to
unchanging.
fuck really bad.
oh, angel fuckers
They
do.
can't taste
but-
anything.
But
They can't even smell a
when
rose.
I think that the thing is, we look at this from the perspective of our limited mortal perspective, and we mistaken self for who we are, and we can't conceive of a place of being where we are experiencing anything without being who we are currently. And so in Nirvana, if you're not perfect, then you won't experience perfection. You're going to experience an imperfect version of perfection because you're imperfect and you're filtering it through your imperfections. So if you actually reach Nirvana, then you should be more perfect or perfect. Your soul is perfect.
Perfecter.
And yourself is the
More
imperfection that suffering generates. And so the angels, like you asked, well, I don't even think they're jealous. I think they're just programmed. I think that it's just part of the script, and they were supposed to fall, and they're going to rise again with everyone else. And I think they might even be us. I think the fallen angels are within us, and we are all of them because we have fallen. That's why we don't want nirvana. We're imperfect because we fell in the Garden of Eden or wherever.
Well, from a first person perspective, what if I asked you, like, nirvana would mean you would never experience suffering again, but you wouldn't be you. You wouldn't be individuals anymore. You would just
couldn't prick your
become
finger
God.
on the rose, but you couldn't.
You would just fuse back.
Either.
You would just fuse back together with God, and then you would see everything. You would understand everything. You would know everything. You wouldn't be you anymore, but you would never suffer again. And you fear that because you like being you. You like being.
I would literally rather God.
Body.
I would literally rather God save my soul off to the side somewhere until He wanted to use it again.
Yeah, because that's the individuality kicking in. That's like I still want to be me.
No, I would like God to look at my soul and be like, "Wow, this is useful in preservation and protection."
Yeah, because you want to feel special.
So, like, I want this to be reused.
But that's all of us.
The alternative would be that God sees the soul as harmful and destructive to life, and then says, "You know what? I don't need this."
I mean, that's the thing, is you could become the breath of everything in another world, or trying to be a person is conflict engineering. It's all about how to interact with a different it's the whole definition of being probably has to do with conflict, right? So it's narrative based on suffering, which leads to constrictions that you work against.
Yeah.
So you're kind of fun.
So don't get me wrong, when it comes to the individuality game, it's not that I reject it, it's not that I hate it, it's not that I even love it. I'm just grateful for it, because I know it's like 80 years or so out of an eternity. I didn't have to have that. God didn't have to give me this experience. So I'm just thankful. So whatever comes of it, at least I could say I'm not making decisions out of fear of loss. I already won. I was already born. I already got to play and make decisions and play this cause and effect game in material reality. Gratitude. Yeah. One of the
gratitude
funny.
is probably the key to breaking suffering.
Yeah.
When we use the word recreation, it's usually for some activity that has some sort of rhythmic back and forth action, like either like a game or a musical thing, or even a play where there's a dialogue between two or more characters. Constantly, always a back and forth. It's that's because creation is literally just an oscillation, and any recreation is a recreation of that same oscillation. We're just creating this thing. It's a toy. The entire universe is a garden and a toy.
Yeah, but we also have to consider that, the fabric of reality is delicate when you look at it in terms of oscillation. When a slight oscillation speeds up, suddenly everyone's more racist, or suddenly like people become more communist. Like, it's that serious.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that shit. But then again, that also means that if you know exactly which thread to pull or which brake to push on, you can create massive waves that continue crashing down even after you're gone.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'd like to segue into, so I'm doing this thing with a charity called Covenant House, where I'm going to be sleeping outside to help homeless youth in November.
Interesting.
At the Javits Center in New York City on November 20th. I'm going to go ahead and send Andreas the link. If he can maybe signal boost it out, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure, I'll put it up.
If he doesn't, you can always just Google Sleep Out New York. And just
private
chat
to
anybody, but if you can just put it in the description and everything in the chat, that would be awesome, man. I'd really appreciate it.
Put it in the private chat, and I'll pull up the page to look at it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the idea of suffering being the whole point of existence is kind of frustrating, but
what's the point of suffering? That's the question. If the point of reality is suffering, then what is the point of suffering itself?
I really think that God created that whole game because He wants to create something where we can minimize suffering as much as possible, and He wants to see what kind of being comes out of that. If we can minimize suffering as much as possible, what kind of being is capable of doing such a thing, and what can He then do with that being?
It might be about transmuting suffering.
I think we learn.
If God
learn here and then we level up, basically.
If God created us to create other things, what will He then create with those things?
Is it not that nirvana is created by all of the suffering, all the solutions to all the suffering, people going through all the different experiences?
I would say it's almost a lack of experience, because how could you experience something without some kind of conflict? When you see light, it's a conflict between a molecule in your eye and a photon from the sun. So
dukkha is this concept we're talking about: pain, unease, or unsatisfactoriness, and so the Four Noble Truths, right? Like, it marks the marks of existence, which are impermanence, suffering, and
Not to interrupt, you got the private chat, right?
yeah, I pulled it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and where's that right here? See?
Oh, I
don't know
didn't
if you
even see
saw.
that screen.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Everybody should check out the
That's right.
Covenant House link right here, sleepout.org movement, and you can go to participant number. I'll link it here. And so, yeah, it's awesome if you want to help people. It's pretty cold in New York.
Didn't you do this once before?
Yeah, I did that last year. Actually, a friend of mine brought me to it, and it was the coolest thing. And yeah, I'm probably
Yeah, how did that go? I ended up
It was really
donating to that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was. I hope you don't want your money back for that donation because I ended up bailing at about 2:00 in the morning. It was a little too cold for me. I was unprepared. This time I'm going to be heading over to the sporting goods store.
No, that's good.
And getting like an Arctic sleeping bag for it. Wow, we got a couple of new teams on the list today. Cool.
Yo, I'm coming up on Memphis, the pyramid in Memphis right now. I'll try and show the class when I'm next to it. Just heads up, coming up
Make
on
sure
it
you
right
don't
now.
take your eyes off the road.
I won't. I'll just take my eyes onto the pyramid at the same time. I'll use both eyes. I'll split it in half. You'll
Good
see.
segue because it was going to get awkward. I didn't have anything more to say about the charity, unless there are questions.
Well, yeah. If anyone has any questions, but also put the link up there.
Thank you.
He says, an admirable and delightful role you're on. Very reassuring. Thank you, Mr. Morris. Bravo for the charity Sleeping Rough plan. Awesome. The right
It ain't
honorable
that rough.
senator.
We'll be right outside the Javits Center, but it will be outside. If anybody wants to come, like I said, it's on November 20th. Come on. Like, obviously, you got to sign up, but come on down.
I like this name, though. Right honorable senator of New York. That's pretty good. Yeah, I was just saying about Buddhism and suffering. So it's like part of the marks of existence, which are impermanence without a lasting essence and unsatisfactoriness or unease, right? And I think that that's kind of why
We literally use all of that. There's no fiction without any of these elements. And we constantly have obsessions with it. People spend hours and hours every single day watching light boxes, televisions, and monitors and phones with nothing but fictional stories and fictional unease, fictional tension, fictional pain. It
So
wouldn't
the
be
idea
a story
that-
without it.
So then the idea is that the opposite of these things, like a place that is easy, that you feel satisfied always.
Teletubbies.
And well, I'm just saying paradise or nirvana, right? The idea of nirvana.
Teletubbies is terrifying. So
Yeah.
Yep. Would you want to live there?
I mean, I never really was engaged by the idea
I-
of the Teletubbies.
I don't
Yo,
like
check it out,
Lovecraftian.
pyramid.
I don't like Lovecraftian worlds. So no.
Woo,
Yeah,
baby.
it's very,
Yeah, pyramid.
it's very Lovecraft.
Pyramid.
I don't know if you can hear. I don't think you can.
Is that the pro
Hell
bass?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
right here in
based off
Memphis.
Damn
Can
straight.
you see it
wow.
through my dirty windshield?
Oh my God, is this
Pro
the
bass
best?
shop? Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
pretty
smash
sweet.
the Pyramid. I like it.
What?
That's so
Imagine,
good.
imagine the
There's a car
sacrifices
pretty
that go
close
on
to
under
you.
there.
There it is.
That's
That
a sign.
is an interesting building.
That's
They
a
aren't
sign.
just sacrificing fish. That's for sure.
I mean, is
There
it
we
really
go.
a sacrifice if you eat it? I don't think it is.
Yeah,
I think
of
you have to
course.
make it a burnt offering to sacrifice and send it up to God in the smoke.
That's just
Well,
a
you
whole
can make it an offering to your stomach, I guess.
I guess,
Uh,
yeah. If you use the energy to do something pious with it, maybe.
Yeah,
but, like, are
I've
we-
been laying
Be
off
an
meat.
evil
'cause,
offering.
I'm sorry, Andreas. What were you saying?
So are we like aimed towards creating nirvana? Maybe it's like maybe nirvana doesn't really exist until all the suffering has led to like all of the slots being hit by marbles until everything's straight lines or something. And then that's
I think that's probably a human going, this is what we're here for. But like, I think that we're here to like collectively reach enlightenment. And if nirvana is true enlightenment, then that's the point. But I think that God is lonely or something, and he wanted more
Honestly, I
people
don't-
that were higher than
What
they
if-
are in order to
what
have
if
good
it's-
conversations.
What if it's much pettier to God, where God's not we're not going through all of this because God's lonely. God's just coming to a decision. You know, like he's just in the middle of a dilemma right now, and he's like, "What do I do about this thing?" And
Yeah,
thus,
but why?
because of that,
Why have a dilemma at all? Then like if not to use us for something positive, like there's the dilemma is what are we salvageable or are we not salvageable? Is that the dilemma? Like
I don't
I
know.
don't think
can't-
I don't
I
think
don't
it's a
know.
dilemma.
I
I
just-
think it's just a process.
if it's also that if the three like if the what's called the Trilaksana, like the three natures, if the three natures are suffering and temporariness and lack of like existing forever, then that means that that nirvana is unnatural, right? It's not a nature. It's like if these are the three modes of existence, and then saying nirvana does not exist, right?
It could be, you know, like we have an apple at the end of a string, or carrot rather, and we're supposed to chase it.
I mean,
But
maybe nirvana comes with its own
that's-
problems for the physical reality. Maybe nirvana comes with an evolutionary bottleneck of some sorts. But for what you're saying, Vincent, how you think like we're supposed to collectively find enlightenment. For me, I think it's inevitable, honestly. Like, because I look at myself, for example, and like I'm just a peasant, you know. So like back in like a couple hundred years ago, I might not even know how to read, let alone have conversations about metaphysics and like the nature or the meaning of the human experience. So I think if it just becomes more exponential like that in terms of like just in people's consciousness, then that in itself is going to fundamentally change everything about reality. And I think that's going to happen. So like, I think
If you reach nirvana, do you just fall out of your body, or do you nirvana in place, like in the earth?
Ask Kurt Cobain.
You operate on a different frequency where like you're more aware, first of all, of cause and effect changes, like patterns. You know, it's pattern recognition in a lot of ways. That's why people who are good with pattern recognition can either fall into the right kind of stuff like this or the schizo shit. Either way, it's like it's pretty intense. And then if you're aware of the pattern,
or bliss after?
Well, what could be more blissful than actually feeling like you don't have unnecessary suffering placed upon yourself, because you're not treating people like alienated, you know, material bodies. You treat them as different versions of yourself. So not only that, but you're going to have more positive experiences. People are going to like look at you differently. They're not going to see you as like this agent of selfishness or whatever. They're going to see you as, all right, he's doing what he can to survive, but at least he views me as a fellow human and not just like a separate body with its own like bullshit going on, you know?
But, you know, like you said, there's no reason, if God didn't want us to reach enlightenment, he wouldn't have even put the concept before us at all. It wouldn't have even come. We wouldn't have these discussions. We wouldn't have been exposed to the things we have been exposed to, and here we are discussing the notion that everyone will be enlightened at some point. So I think that just the fact that exists at all, well, there's a reason, you know, like it's part of that process, and we don't. It's like if we had a choice. It's like if we were like, hey, you know, I'm going to be exposed to like an aspect of the entire truth of reality. No, it was there because we're supposed to be reaching for it. We're supposed to be ascending, and here we are, you know.
And it's also like if you live in a reality
put the stars before us, so that we would reach out for them.
If you put like, you know, your reality as just more and more suffering based, you know, it's like the more collective suffering we all go through, the more we're going to be pushed to start looking for answers. Like, why is this shit happening to me? Does life hate me? Does God hate me? And this is where you start.
Like, look at your thumb. Like, that represents like billions of years of evolution, and many beings had to suffer and die so that you could evolve to have a thumb, or that life could evolve to produce you with a thumb. Perhaps the suffering is just a test, quote unquote, so that we could further advance in that endeavor.
Maybe, or it was designed. I figure lab rats suffer too. You know, if you try to make them grow an extra thumb, like they're going to be suffering, even if it's by design. So like,
even if the ones that come out are even better off. Yeah,
you know, like,
but
if it's growing hurts. Like
the only thing
this universe is like a generation ship. You know, even all the other aliens are in here with us.
But there is some complications, like there's some crossover between higher dimensions and our dimension. Like there's entities like acting through humans as agents in weird ways that have been reported and widely covered up, as if there's something in between us and God that's higher than us, lower than God, and they're like fighting each other. I was telling Colin, I think at one point, like, you know, in theory, that there was like different tribes of these higher entities, and they were just like fighting amongst themselves in tribal warfare. Then over time, is also reflected in human development, like all the sides started getting melded together through warfare and conquest till there's only two sides left. And there's like one nature of angelic sides of their frequency and patterns, and then there's a demonic side, and they have it out for each other. And you could say they can't exist without each other too. And above them is God. And this is where I would say maybe this is where God is just like coming to a decision, right? But in between that, with the lowercase g gods, those guys are using us as vessels. Like depending on how we choose to live, depending on our choices we make, we become different vessels for like different entities with that, you know, align with different things, whether on the dark polarity or the light polarity. And then if you could tap into that, suddenly you're capable of more shit. Suddenly, like when you tell people to do things, they suddenly listen to you. Or suddenly, like when people talk to you about their trauma, they feel better. You know, your gratitude rubs off on them. And that's like different entities, kind of higher entities working on higher consciousness principles, working through you and affecting the reality. And we as a species are becoming way more susceptible to it. We're becoming wider and wider vessels as we consider this shit.
The return of the gods.
Yeah, and this might all culminate to like some crazy cosmic battle between the angels and demons and good and
I think
evil
it's
in
been
our
happening
world.
for a long time. You know, I think Armageddon happens inside of fiction, inside of the subconscious, inside of even conscious awareness. We actively fight these things thematically, constantly. Yeah. So
and
at the very
maybe
least,
the world wars. Maybe the world wars are like outward manifestations of a kind of Armageddon. Like,
but this complicates things because of these, like, you know, occurrences. It's like we can't just say, oh, it's all spiritual and mental. Now it's like really leaking in. It's like, well, where does that shit come from? I mean, and this is where it's like, well, why am I more protected when I align more towards, say, Jesus Christ in some cases, or God? And the evil entities seem to leave me alone. Like, you think you're listening to crazies, but then the more and more they reference this shit, like people with PhDs, you're like, what the hell is going on? And there's like, you know, I'm still with the God thing. You know, I'm still with Source. I want to align with Source, you know, the creator, the one who gifted me this life in the first place. So that's just, you know, hopefully that keeps me safe, you know.
I like the idea of aspects so hard. So I think like we need to maybe look at like Hindu aspects. So for me, okay, the way I would look at it maybe is you've got like sunyata, right? Which is this emptiness and void. And in sunyata, there's the preserver, which is Vishnu. And so Vishnu is maybe the creation in a lot of ways, but the creation is also designed by the first being. So it's Brahma. So Brahma is the avatar that is the creator that's allowing everything to happen. And then you use Shiva as the conflict, which is actually the narrative keeper that's keeping everything going. So it's this thing that's actually what we all live for, is we all live for Shiva, because we're living to create and to destroy and to move forward in this thing towards the untruth, which is something beyond truth, maybe something beyond nature and existence, which is that nirvana. But nirvana is not the sunyata. It's not like the void of emptiness. It's something where everything hits like this perfection point. And so
Sorry, guys,
really
have a good one. All
right, love you, bro.
Take care, bro.
But the key word was prana. Sorry, I wanted, because he would have liked that, because he breathes. You know, people like to breathe. But prana is this idea of like breath, and so I think being, you know, when they talk about how you are breathed into some sort of dirt that makes you a being. So you've got the form and the shape and everything from the creation that's inside of the void, but between the void, the thing that's like guiding and shaping and forming everything is the breath, right? So you're the breath of God, but as you're going out, you're not going to end up maybe as a being, but like as billions of beings or something, because you become the breath of all of, once you become a competent breath, one that's well shaped and formed, then it's like water memory, that everything around it that it touches also carries a positive symmetry. And I think that's kind of what I think is really going on.
I think one of the goals is to get out of acrasia, and we are currently all in acrasia. We're all basically trying not to.
You guys can hear the GPS, huh?
I can hear the crickets. That is the GPS. Yeah.
All right.
We're all currently acting against our own will, basically, in our civilizations, and we are controlled by the will of others. We don't have a choice but to go to work, but to pay what we have to pay. And eventually that'll go away. Eventually other people's will synchronize with ours, as opposed to being something that we're forced to do.
What's this cartoon you're trying to show, Chris?
This is part of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the part of the Bhagavad Gita where his council shows himself as being the avatar of Shiva, if I'm not mistaken. So he unveils
Looks like it.
the reality completely, and you can see all the faces of all the avatars of Brahman.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And those are all aspects of God, or what?
Yeah, Brahman is the Godhead. So it's the what we would call God in other religions.
Well, there's there's like the Trimurti.
I view it as like the program of reality itself, the total structure of reality.
So the Trimurti
Okay.
is like the Trinity of Hinduism. So
Yeah.
people, think of the Trinity in Christianity as like a thing that's very Western, but really the idea of there being like three Godhead are Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, right? And so Brahma's the creator. Shiva's maybe called the destroyer, but it's a little bit more than that. It's like it's
The
also
mover.
the completer, you could say,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they complete things, and then Vishnu is like perseverant exister.
Well, they're all
eternal.
subdivisions, right? They're all subdivisions, and it's a fractal system. So the Hindu system is fractal in that it starts from the Brahman and then subdivides over and over and over into the totality of all things.
And that is how you divide an intelligence agency for your government.
Well,
try.
also for free agency. So literally, the idea of agency is something that the gods have. So to create, but then also to use the shunyata, to use like the void of nothingness, so that you could then create more breath. And then I think that's the idea of water memory with breath. That if you're forming existence, then it's basically it's cultivating more God. It's when we're cultivating more Godhead, and we're each part of that. A breath that's being trained to be part of the Godhead. And if we fail or choose not to, that's up to us. But if you form yourself and you grow, mature into a correct prana breath, then you become part of the Godhead. That seems to be kind of what ancient Hinduism is talking about. And it's leading the Veda, that you're leading to extending Vishnu, like the idea of the existence, the eternal existence is being extended, and into realms where like the center is actually the worst part. That's where the most gnarly naraka is happening, but that's processing outwards as it grows in the sort of paradisical perfection that is nirvana on the outskirts of existence.
Samsara is a soul washing machine.
Yeah, actually. And then that's kind of what I find interesting about Mormonism, right? Is because they believe pretty much this idea that like there's the Kolob star, there's this light system that is producing expansive reality. I don't know if everyone thinks of it as deeply as that, but it's pretty clear in their Book of Abraham, right? That the universe is made of beings that are not becoming God, but becoming part of the Godhead. And they're because of the Romans 8:17, right? Where Paul says, we are co-heirs with Christ. So that you're like the son of God. You're not the son of Christ. You're the brother of Christ. And so you're actually becoming part of the co-heirs of Christ. So their whole thing, people will always say, oh, the Mormons are becoming gods, or or they're going to get their own planet. But I think that's actually more interestingly merged together as a concept, that you're going to become your own Godhead of the planet. Is to say you're going to be.
Does that go into?
It's to say you're the breath of every living being in a new world or in a new plane of existence.
Does that go into theosis, or is it compatible with the idea of theosis at all?
I mean, you could call it like do you mean like shared lens, or do you mean like theosophism?
Well, so in Orthodox Christianity, there's this idea of theosis, and I'm not really very good at explaining it, but it's kind of like becoming like a higher version of a human, like going towards the Godhead.
So the difference is, that's the question always, is it apotheosis, where you become a god, or is it apokatastasis, where you return to your nature? So to become a god, on one hand, is this divinity process, this apotheosis, where you're becoming a creator that's like different than you were. That's like post-humanism. And apokatastasis is where you remember that Adam and Eve were immortal in the Garden of Eden. And so really, if you're just returning to your nature, you're not becoming something new. You're just going back to what you were before you started this process, albeit now with the lessons you've learned.
So
vis-a-vis reintegrated with your inner child, post shadow work, etc., etc.
a part
it's
of
all,
it.
it's all the same shit. I always say it's like different fingers pointing at the same direction. Carl Jung,
Individuation.
Buddha, Christ. They're like, yo, there, you look there, and it's all pointing inside of you.
Right. Well, when God cast Adam and Eve out, he said that he had to hide the tree of life, or else they would become as we are. And they chose those words carefully. Why
I mean,
we, you know, as
I mean,
we
this
are
also
instead of as I am.
this also reflects in real life, right? You look at a child, and a child in you know a quantum sense is like perfect because like possibilities are endless for a child, and as they get older, they start solidifying and calcifying into this like individual with their own traumas and their own emotional hangups and their own experiences and their own knowledge. And then that, you know, kind of, can you break out of that and go back to that state where anything was possible? And that takes unlearning, I guess, and letting go of a lot of shit, you know, because a lot of what makes us individuals is a lot of our grudges, is a lot of our hangups and biases. Like if you could let that shit go, then you could exist as an adult with all the material agency, but with also the conceptual freedom of a child. Like, yeah, maybe I could still learn how to play the violin in my 30s. You know, why not? And it's usually yourself that holds you back in those endeavors too. It's usually yourself that gets in the way anyway, you know?
Matthew 18:3. Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Also, become again as children, depending on the translation. So find your inner child, regain your neuroplasticity, and be open
Children
to heaven.
don't.
You can't be open to heaven. You can't go to
Children
heaven.
don't question heaven; they just accept it.
Yeah. And I think like the problem with becoming your inner child again is because you're faced with all the bullshit, all the decisions that your inner child would be horrified by. They would be like, what did you do? What the fuck? Like, what did you do to yourself? What did you do to this person? And then it's like, you're going to have this moment of tension that a lot of people aren't going to be able to get over, where there's no like reconciliation. But I think the proper way to look at it is to say, you made those stupid ass decisions because I was asleep, but I'm awake now. And now we can do this together as we're supposed to. And that's kind of how reintegration works. It's you separate. You acknowledge the separation, you forgive that separation, and then you shake hands on it. It's like, all right, let's see what we could do together now, working on the same side, instead of like you asleep and my stupid ego having to like kind of drunk drive everything, you know?
Well, it seems like a major, like the inner child falls into the shadow as you get older. So it's like all your coping mechanisms and all the anger that you hold is that wounded inner child that you like feels like, you know, he shouldn't have been wounded. He shouldn't have been the victim of those traumas, but that's part of just reality. And so accepting it is, hey man, like, yeah, it sucked, but it's part of the love yourself and forgive yourself for being hurt, for the imperfection of reality, and keep self-perfecting, you know?
Yeah.
But if self-perfecting is designed towards making a better world, I mean, that's the thing. I think you were trying to say you accept, but you don't really. Like, you think it's something that could happen, but it's not necessary to the equation.
Well, that's it. You accept that it's not perfect, but you work towards making it better.
But you are working towards making it perfect.
Well, self-perfecting, like perfection, the thing about perfection is that it can't change. Perfect things are perfect. There's no need for change. So self-perfecting is adaptation. It's the capacity to fit within the space that you're in and reshape the space that you're in, as opposed to just everything is stagnant because it's perfect. So I feel
If we lived in a perfect world, would it all just solidify into crystal?
Depends how we define perfect,
Reasonable.
right? Like no death. Is perfection accepting reality, or is it making it whatever we imagine to be perfect?
This is like Fraggle Rock. All of a sudden, like we're out in the real world.
Back in the Matrix.
In the back room.
Hello, Andrew.
So, did you know we were talking
What's
about
up, Builder?
the paradise rejection in the Matrix and how they had to build this world of suffering?
Oh yeah, the architect's monologue. The first three I made were perfect mathematically. But you humans, you like to be smelly and dirty.
Pretty much. That's pretty good. What do you think about that? Like the idea that existence is dependent on suffering, or is it?
I mean, everything in moderation, right? That's I think that there's certainly a lot to be learned from pain and suffering, but I don't think building an entire civilization or a cult around farming suffering to feed to fifth dimensional demonic entities is the way to go. But that's kind of where that's the basket a lot of the eggs are in these days.
Yeah, so what I mean, so that's an interesting thought too, because I was thinking about prana, where like you become the breath of the universe or of some living world, but really there probably already are tons of fifth dimensional beings that are feeding off prana, or what do you think is going on? They're feeding off the energy of to create, like to trap us. I mean, the Matrix is about kind of a Buddhist analogy to our real world, right? So how do you feel it's working? The consumption of soul.
Maybe they feed off suffering.
Yeah, no, we the five of us have discussed this multiple times. The Monsters Inc. Analogy,
right,
for the whole thing. Do I think it works? Yeah, there's so much infrastructure established to support an economy of suffering, of self-doubt, of pain or whatever. So
I mean,
think we talked about it before with like Hellraiser, sort of romanticizing the idea of worshiping pain. But again, like I opened with, I think everything in moderation. It's you can't go to the gym every day and carry your muscles up and have them be useful. Yeah, they might look big or whatever, but they're not going to serve the function that a big muscle is supposed to serve if you are burning it out.
Battery, please charge.
Okay, so I have some thoughts on this, like especially when we bring up like demonic fifth dimensional entities, because I mean, even in some traditions like Kabbalic mysticism, for example, there's like 72 categorized demons, and for each demon there's supposedly an angel that represents the positive polarity of it, and essentially it's like what these things want supposedly is representation, worship. They want you to live by their patterns, their frequency, so that they could use you. Basically, like like an athlete and a sponsor. A sponsor wants the best athlete that could represent their brand. So they look for the athlete that is most suited for that, and then they approach that athlete and say, "Yo, represent us in this game, in this modern world. Live as we would if we were in your shoes, if we were able to be human as well." And I think that goes both ways for the demons and the angels, because a lot of people talk about like, what happens when you feed, quote unquote, the demons with your pain, suffering, selfishness, and materialist logic and stuff. And instead of using your intuition, gratitude, you could transmute anything. Pain could become work. Laziness could become patience. All with if you just approach it with the right frequency, I think.
Yeah, being able to interpret those signals and transmute them and create a positive feedback loop from a potentially negative stimulus. Like that is like the real freedom in being a human, is being able to make that choice of transmuting, different energies. So yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree, and I also believe that positivity and whatever the opposite of suffering is, I wouldn't even say it's contentment or joy or ecstasy. Maybe
balance.
That one, but yeah, no, I think that positive energy is more powerful than negative energy. So that's also a good thing. You could combat negative energy with less exertion if you have the knowledge and the tools. But for some reason, it's a lot easier to destroy things than it is to create them. So there's, it's all just how do you calibrate yourself to perform the next right thing? And how do you figure out what the next right thing is, especially when there's so much misinformation and all these different events that are being portrayed in however so many different ways to serve.
Gratitude, man. Gratitude is the key. Gratitude is the first step towards calibrating yourself.
Great, Krypton. The entire multiverse is the prey of celestial parasites, vampire gods.
Oh, Superman. So wait, Andrew, the main question then was, why did we reject paradise? Why does soul reject being in paradise in the Matrix?
Curiosity. And I think they touch a little bit on that in Hellraiser about just the thirst
or the desire for knowledge, and we know that desire is the first step towards suffering. So just even just wanting to know more, we let go of our grip on this sort of like paradise that was served to us on a silver platter, because the idea that there was something more than that, or rather the reality, and acknowledging the reality that there was more to life than paradise, and wanting to know that, I guess.
And I just want to say, just because you're a person is grateful doesn't mean they still don't get shit. You know, like you still get new stuff. You know, even being thankful every day. Like, and guess what? You become even more thankful. You're like, wow, I found a $5 bill. I didn't have to do that, and then you become like, this is awesome. It's twice as good.
Yeah, so also maybe that's the thing, is that the Matrix isn't talking about actual paradise. It's talking about what it thinks of as a perfect simulation, which its idea of paradise is, you know, different than actual nirvana. Because it might be like the way people immaturely describe heaven as being like a place where everything is made of light, and, you know, that would probably be blinding all the time, or like the place where you can get whatever you want all the time. So it's basically like a resort or something, like a bright white shadowless resort that you're just stumbling through trying.
It's like the movie fuck, I think this is the end, the one with Seth Rogen and like that crew, where at the end, like the end of the world happens in Hollywood, and then they end off going to heaven, and heaven is like a party where the Backstreet Boys are playing stuff, and it's like a weird sort of like materialistic heaven that just makes no sense, you know. But that's the best that they can conceive of it, because they can only view heaven as pleasure as opposed to total completion.
I saw that movie, but did you see What Dreams May Come?
Oh yeah, I love What Dreams May Come.
Yeah, that's some serious stuff right there.
Yeah, there was some stuff in there that's
it's a good one. Mandrock Dux Novu.
This is in the DC universe, this is the vampire god that is basically feeding off the multiverse and fuels anti-life. And he's part of the monitors, and the monitors are all energy vampires that feed off of creativity, storytelling, suffering, all of it. It's all there. It's all mapped out. You just pay attention.
It's all in the comics, man. Okay, and you also have
comics are hyper sigils. This is the species of the multidimensional vampires.
What about
comic books? Comic books are no joke. They are the modern medium for magicians to basically.
Yeah, but now we have memes, which are even more volatile, faster, more dangerous, more effective.
Those are. I'd say that those are sigils, but comic books are hyper sigils. Hyper sigils have a longer term program unfolding, while memes are singular. Like they're more memeplexes, while memes are individual like they're single units, while comic books are clusters of memes. You know,
it's and like hieroglyphics.
They are world shapers. Comic books are world shapers in our current state, in the same way books used to be. But now, like, they'll shape generations because they're directed at children mostly, and children get completely formed by stories. And if you actually pay attention, then you can see, oh shit, like they're mapping consciousness. They're mapping the mythology that is within all of humans and the archetypes that are across all of people, whether old or new.
I think that's kind of what King Solomon was doing with those demons in the Lesser Key of Solomon, where he was like, I have to like systematically interrogate these captured demons and figure out their sigils and shit, and it's crazy stuff.
I was just thinking earlier that maybe CERN is a giant conjuration circle.
Oh no!
You know, like the entire it's a big circle, right? So like it could be
to trap the demons that are otherwise roaming free.
Well, that's what a Solomonic conjuration circle is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep it trapped while you basically make it feel like shit under, like, in the name of God, so it'll serve you.
Guantanamo Bay, yeah.
It's a giant Ghostbusters little thingamabob.
But yeah, he was successful at it, though. He was harnessing the power of these archetypal entities, and they turned on him because, you know, you can't fuck around with demons and expect a happy ending. Like, the minute, I think what happens is, like, they'll help you on your road to power, and the minute you start acting like you don't want power and you want to settle down and have peace, and the demons are like, oh, no, buddy. nuh-uh, this isn't the path you chose. And when you try to go against that, they will wreck you.
They'll ruin you by giving you everything you want.
Yep.
Basically.
And
So-
on the other path, like, you know, maybe you'll be like in debt most of your life, and then you die, but at least you die with a clear conscience and you have no regrets. And
Yeah, who
you know,
knows?
everyone thinks of you fondly, and they're grateful to have met you and known you, and blah blah blah. Happy.
It could be that comes at like a price in the afterlife. Like
Mhm.
if you spend your time conjuring demons and trying to get their favors, like they want their pound of flesh, you know.
Yeah, but as a regular person, this is why like I care, because it's not even like I want peace necessarily. It's not even like I want riches. I just don't want to do harm, because I think that's really fundamental. That's what starts the karmic chain of cause and effect. And a lot of times, like, the worst harm is the kind we do without realizing. Like when we act a little too snarky at the birthday party, or when we like express a little bit of envy or something and try to put someone down when we don't have to, and stuff like that. Like,
the road to hell is paved with good intention.
And this also kind of ties into the left narrative of there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, because it's like we could all be great people, but by like the sheer act of consuming products made by certain corporations, you know, it's like, oh, I fucking love Coca-Cola. Well, it's like, how many ecosystems has Coca-Cola been responsible for destroying? And is that attaching to my karma by consuming this product that this evil corporation has been producing?
Right.
You know, it's hard to say. How do you take yourself out of that karmic chain?
Well, that's a crazy, right? And that is like, it feels like they want us to share in their sins. So they're trying to normalize all the things that they indulge in, and then they want us to feel like it's just part of normal culture, whether it be consumerism or pornography, even cannibalism. Who knows? You know, like, there could be, like, if there was a cannibal cult out there, if they wanted us all to be fucking sinners too, they just shove it inside the meat processing plants and be like, hey, now they're all eating whatever we decided they should eat, you know.
That'd be so crazy if that was real and happening in real life in Minecraft. That'd be so crazy.
In Minecraft? Well, I have some bad news about actual reality.
Actual reality is Minecraft. So if heaven is not nirvana, basically, that idea of paradise, that's actually kind of interesting, because they're saying in the Matrix that they didn't make nirvana, they made paradise. And so, like, you know, in paradise or in heaven, you still have a self. You still want the rewards you're getting all the time, which is that there's plenty of food and everything's nice all the time. And a lot of the stories of heaven are like based on external validation. Like, you're very close to the throne of Christ, you know, like you get to sit up there. So when everyone's sitting in this banquet hall, you know, they can see where you're sitting because you're sitting at a higher place than some of them are sitting. Not necessarily everyone's version of heaven, but that seems like a lot of it is, at very least, we're all in a banquet hall, like in the Last Supper, like if we're all equally all next to Christ at like a round table and he's in the center or something. It seems kind of weird. I don't know, but Nirvana,
some of us are more equal than others, you know?
Yeah, psychologically a lot of people come from that
aristocracy of the soul and whatnot.
Yeah, of heaven, right? But even if you think you're in a communist situation where no one's able to look at anyone, but everyone sees each other because you're all equally around God, isn't that kind of what everyone already is? It's just so you're aware of it. But nirvana is the end of a need for paradise more than it's paradise itself. So if you escape the false paradise, then you're waking up, then you're ending up in nirvana, or maybe not necessarily, but that kind of seems like the idea is that you're no longer useful to the machine because you've escaped.
You know too much, essentially. Like, if once you understand the system, it's like, I could see, why am I gonna do this?
Or you won't play fetch anymore.
It requires the self in order to do stuff, right? Like, if you don't have a sense of self, then there is no I and there is no functionality in the mortal world. You don't know where to put your fork when you're eating. You don't know how to help others because there is no ego from which to source helping others. And so, like the Bodhisattva who waits for all souls to be freed from samsara or from hell, well, he's waiting for that because he can still be useful. But once he reaches Bodhisattva, the best he can do is be an example. And that's fine, but the actual physical work requires the ego and requires the physical self to do it.
Yeah, but I think Sorry, I was gonna say I think the miracle of all this is that like yeah, you know, your whole karmic light and dark actions can and whatnot, and you should avoid the dark ones. But I don't think we even need external sources to tell us what we're doing is right or wrong. I think if you did like a practice, like a reflective practice, like journaling every day, you see your own shit. There's no lying. I mean, what are you gonna do? Lie to yourself? Like,
Well, yeah, but that's the thing.
A
People do
lot of
lie to
serial
themselves.
killers kept journals, like really extensive journals. Like people are proud of the shit that they do.
Yeah.
well, that's
so
when
it-
that's when you start embracing your dark path, and then you know you can't really get out of that, and you're stuck.
Well, and
Yeah.
if you're talking about being an example, or like I was thinking also like being like a model. So again, with the water memory idea, that if you're at a you make things the way you are, in a sense, things you touch, you change their vibration. So if you get to like a perfect vibration, then you become a tool for imprinting perfection on, you know, like training other like you said, being a model or an example. Being an example can lead to other things shaping themselves like you, and even just like you were saying, a crystal reality, growing everything in perfect symmetry, so everything it touches would be more perfected by your perfection.
yeah, but that's the thing.
Fucking
It's
rippling.
I think that perfection is all about contextualization. You have to be in the perfect context in order to be perfect. And if you're not in the right context, then it's not perfect. Like, you know, the bird is perfect in the tree, but it's imperfect in the ocean. It'll die. You know, it's everything in its place is how perfection works. And so you can't just be like, oh, there's a generalized model for the totality of all things, unless if you look at the totality of all things itself, because then you're part of the model. But if you're just going like, oh, there's, you know, like we should all be like the bird, then you won't learn the lessons of the fish, you know?
I feel like nanostructures and these sacred geometrical structures that we see at the primordial size of nature, you know, at the smallest of nanoscale crystals, they
It's
kind of
like
show you perfection, man. What's the
Also the crop circles.
It's all cymatics, baby.
Yeah, the legit crop
We're
circles.
all made of cymatics.
So if these are perfect shapes and perfect harmonic frequencies of shape, sp2 orbitals that have low entropy, high surface to area volume ratio, ability to be impacted perfectly, the least amount of material for the most structure, a buckyball, right? Then isn't that kind of something that should replicate itself because it's a perfection? C60.
How much perfection is needed? You know, self-replication. Like it's the building blocks are all perfect, yeah, but everything else is perfect. It's just a matter of perspective. We view it as perfect. It's like, you know, if you're drowning in the ocean, you'll feel like it's not perfect, but it is.
But water memory, right? So that's that idea. Like the things will be made perfect by touching the perfect thing.
Sure.
Sort
But
of like
I said, it's
osmosis.
context.
Yeah.
Like if the perfect thing is perfect, then it'll be able to perfect itself in any environment.
Well, I think interaction with like the field and the environment is sort of like the key, and you know, to expect something to develop as quote unquote perfect in far from ideal circumstances is like a tremendous leap of faith. I guess my interpretation would be that there's like this perfection field that we're all sort of can potentially be vessels of, and by being an example and kind of like removing your ego from the idea of embodying perfection, you're allowing whatever perfection is to come through your vessel, and in that way be an example. But it's really
I remember I said I was like, I tried to think of myself as a tool for God, and Kurt just shat all over me. He was like, God must look at you like, what a fucking tool. And then I was like, so be it. Like, allow the Lord to view me as another brick in his wall. And
that's fine.
Yeah.
What's the alternative? You know, like he's gonna look
Yeah,
at you
for the
as
devil.
not cool, you know? Like,
I mean, there's other entities. There's other entities that I'm sure would love to act through me. I kind of, you know, don't like the idea of that. Like, I'd rather just choose the one that's like, well, you know, I know that. Just the one that we're all connected to.
Try to orient yourself towards the highest good conceivable. The thing is that everyone's highest good conceivable, highest good is different. And so they clash because we are imperfect beings trying to generate perfection. And is that even possible? You know?
How
mean, my
funny is the
favorite.
Chandra X-ray Observatory's video on space-time foam, right? This idea, like the outside of space and time, that there's just kind of a space-time foam that decides to shape itself into space or time, or both.
That is
It's like
pretty
the
cool.
background static.
I want to jump in that space-time foam.
That's a cool idea. I
I
like
mean,
it.
That's it. It's the
you guys
foam on
talked
the side
about-
of the ocean, you know.
You guys talked about perfect shapes, and I was thinking like, what makes a shape perfect? I mean, if there's like a perfect image I could think of, it would be a spiral, right? Because if you look at everything through oscillations, usually we see like a diagram of like a squiggly line, but that squiggly line is just like a two-dimensional representation of what's actually going on, which is like a spiral wave fluctuating between like rotations, which increases the frequency. Yeah, that's what it is. So to increase your frequency in like even new age terms, it's not so much as feeling happy all the time. It's understanding that your emotional states aren't really controlled by you. There's just something that you can observe if you truly wanted to. And once you observe it, that rotation of your speeds up because you're like, oh, I know why I'm happy. And then it's going to move on to sadness. It's like, well, I know why I'm sad. Then it's going to move on to eventually you get to the superposition, which is what like elevated frequency really is. And again, like we look at it on a regular graph, it's just a squiggly line, but that's, you know, an actual illusion. It's supposed to be a spiral. And maybe that's the closest thing to a perfect thing we have, because a spiral is a spiral because it's seeking balance. It's going from one side to the other and higher altitudes or lower altitudes. That's just my thoughts.
I like visualizing it as a coil too. That's I like that. It's a good one. Especially because when you consider how like waves sort of like play off of each other or cancel each other out or feed, you know, it's why when you're starting, sometimes when a good thing is happening for you and you're in this positive feedback loop, it could get so overwhelming. You can become overwhelmed with how good stuff is, and it's just like, oh, the ocean's getting a little too rocky, the waves are lining up a little bit too perfectly. That's amplitude.
I used to conceive of Jacob's ladder as a spiral staircase because that made more sense to me than a ladder. Like the spiral staircase of consciousness. As you ascend the spiral, your consciousness rises or it coils down into.
I hope that's what they meant. That that or a spiral escalator.
I mean, if it's a spiral, it has to go up because otherwise they're just a circle. And that's we don't actually move in circles. We actually move in spirals. And you're either going down the drain or you're going up towards nirvana. Who knows? I don't know.
Maybe
I'm not like
drill.
Yeah.
Maybe it's drilling downwards.
Yeah, could be because drills pull water up, right? The water if you spin a drill down.
Oh yeah,
water, it pulls water up. Go for
right.
As
it's like some ancient screw. I forget what the name of it is, but that's a lot of ancient irrigation.
Well,
systems.
there's this prick named Archimedes who put his name in front of the drill, but I'm pretty sure he just learned about it in Alexandria, and whatever that means. It's not like his idea. He probably just stole it.
It's probably velocity. Like the slower the spiral moves, the lower it's going to go. But if you speed up the velocity, raise your frequency, then it's going to go higher. It's like a propeller.
But if you lubricate your bit, you can drill it quicker. So
yeah, lubricant is enlightenment. Sorry.
Ceramic bearings and all that.
Legit.
Lubricant is words, I think. And words are the accelerator of consciousness.
Well, so what's the point of the end of the Matrix where like they're all at the third one where they're all sitting around and they're like the Matrix can be whatever you want it to be now. So I think
it's a cop-out. I think the end of the Matrix is a cop-out because they didn't reach enlightenment, they didn't reach nirvana, they're still trapped in the Matrix, and you can see that in the sequels where it's actually just a fucking cop-out. They didn't do anything, they didn't solve any problem. They just went, we're in the Matrix, and now there's a sunset, and that's it.
So basically, people are allowed to achieve nirvana eventually if they want to, but they could be trapped in the Matrix forever.
Well, let's deconstruct the Matrix sequels really quick, because a part of the whole training in the first Matrix, the original movie, was the jump training. And like, how is the second movie opened? Oh, she needs to figure out a way to get across this gap so she gets a Ducati. Dude, in the first movie, everyone was jumping clear across like 4 or 5 lane streets.
Yeah, so it's like at the end of the Matrix, it was actually a fall.
Yes, they just nerfed everyone but Neo and
No, they
the
nerfed
Warner Brothers
Neo.
corporate, filmmakers.
They nerfed Neo too. That's the thing. Neo is only able to do force pushes, and it's basically Trinity who becomes the new Neo. She's the one who can actually use the Neo powers, and so it's basically.
Are you talking about the Resurrections or
the latest Matrix
Girl
movie,
boss
Matrix
Trinity.
Oh yeah.
So that one ends with basically now the Matrix is under subjugation of females, and females control. Well, the female controls the Matrix, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Basically, they turn Neo into someone who is able to control the Matrix from within. But then you're like, okay, but they could just hit reset on the Matrix whenever, and there's no actual real power. It's illusion of power. Is it part of the plan anymore?
Well, I think Vince, I think you've either you or Chris or both of y'all have brought this up on numerous occasions that the word matrix has the same root word of mother. Yeah, exactly. So it's like I guess I could see. I don't know. I also have theories that the entirety of Christianity is sort of a matrix allegory unto itself, kind of attributing the miracles associated with creation to a man, Christ, as opposed to, the mother, which is the thing from which all life springs.
They still worship Mother Mary at the very least, But it's not to say, look, I'm not trying to say this to undermine women's power or anything. I'm just saying that the Matrix sequels undermine the 3 movies before it. They just go, none of that actually mattered. You're still in the Matrix. Also, the Matrix just cloned you guys. So now you're trapped in the Matrix for no reason. It's like, okay, why is Neo alive at all? Why did they give him a new body? Why did they trap him there?
Because this is the universe where Neo didn't succeed. There's multiple universes where Neo gets away, but this was the one
where... They clone him at the beginning of the sequel. He's a clone of the original Neo. And so they just go, well, he was going to reincarnate anyway, so we might as well give him a body and then control it from the start. And it's like, well, this is weird. It's like it's more like a personal hell than it is an actual Matrix. Then everyone is just a program. The new agents are just people turned into hordes of basically witch hunters. Like everyone is like a zombie instead of like an actual individual. It's very strange what they did. I feel like the Matrix set up an illusion, and this was trying to program humanity further. The Matrix 4 was there to be like, yeah, just accept the Matrix, but now everything's cool because you get to decide how things are, even if we don't. Like it was a lie. Trinity didn't actually get to control the Matrix.
Then what's the solution then? Are we trying to get to Nirvana? Are we trying to create a Matrix that is like the white void where they can just make guns or whatever they want, chairs, what is the actual goal then? If that's not a good goal.
I think the goal is to harmonize with nature better. To be the kind of person who could just spend their days sitting, overlooking a vast plain near a tree and just being like, I'm just going to read a book and sip my tea today and take a nap and tend to my farm. If you're strong enough to maintain that, then I'd say that's more enlightening than everything. You unload all that karmic baggage. You get to die in peace. You don't harm others. You don't control others, or you don't try to, just harmonize with nature.
If someone comes up to you and tries to kill you at that point,
well, then you got to do what you fucking got to do. You got to train. You got to be strong to defend your shit.
So you can't break. You're still part of the karmic system then.
Of course. I mean, I'm not saying while you're in this physical body, you have to be, right? But to I think the more detached you are from that, the more you're going to be harmonized with nature. No.
Perhaps, but I think that there's a part of humans that we have something bestial inside of us that we must overcome, obviously.
There's plenty to overcome. Have you tried running a farm? I haven't, but I hear it's hard as shit. I hear every day you get your fucking mountains to cross. It just has nothing to do with money and architecture and science. It's more just you trying to harmonize with nature, trying to get along. And because nature represents the true spirit realm. Nature is chaotic. And it's our logic, it's our reason that's trying to overcome that spiritual reflection into our material world, which is crazy. That's probably what the spirit world is like, crazy and insane. And
But
we're just
nature's
trying to
full of
conquer that.
suffering too. Nature's animals killing each other, and
Exactly.
you know.
And is that not like a perfect representation of what a chaotic spiritual realm would look like? And we conquered it. But that doesn't make us stronger, you know, that just makes us more logical and more like able to overcome.
Nature is eat or be eaten, right? Survival of the fittest. But enlightenment has a different idea than that. It's discipline and self-work and balance. But nature doesn't really care about balance. Nature is an oscillating system. It'll destroy. It'll completely wipe away entire ecosystems at a whim. And for us, we're trying to maintain to balance ecosystems internally and externally so that we don't allow our planet to destroy itself or for us to destroy it. You know, like if a meteor comes and hits the Earth, like a Buddhist will be like, oh, well, that's just how it's supposed to be. You know?
Well, balance doesn't mean eliminating chaos, and it doesn't mean eliminating order. Balance is just understanding the interplay between those two things.
Not just understanding, but mastering them.
Yeah. But I'm not saying this is how everyone should be, but this is what it would look like, I think, in my view. Like, if you're gonna try to exist with like the least karmic baggage, then the first step is you're gonna have to get right with nature somehow, and that's something we collectively probably have to do, right?
I agree.
Well, yeah.
We should all take
sort of what's allowed us to weather the seasons is preparation, being able to recognize patterns, acknowledging that seasons are even a thing that happen every year, and then planning accordingly. But you know, as we've experienced as a species, there's seasons that last longer than a year. There's 100-year cycles, 4, 20, fucking 1,000-year cycles. So it's like, how do we collect enough data to be able to sort of plan for the 1,000-year winter, basically, or the winter that only happens every 1,000 years, and it all comes back to information and who controls the information and the reasons why they do it, So a lot of patterns are being withheld from us so that only a certain select few have the tools necessary to navigate an approaching winter that they either knew was coming or are actively creating, who knows. But in order to even address that as an issue that we're facing as a species, we have to accept that is a part of the reality that we're living in. And then I don't know, be grateful that we have the tools to recognize that pattern and maybe expand our network of people so we can plan, because together everyone achieves more. Teamwork makes the dream work.
I like it. All right.
And plus, like, I don't know, maybe the natural course is for us to escape planet Earth someday. And I guess I could leave it at that.
Could be.
Yeah, but that's the question. Like, are we trying to escape into a matrix we control completely so you can just make chairs and guns if you want? Or are we trying to escape out of this, like, all of existence into a nirvana where you're no longer even a person? You might be like the breath in lots of persons, but you're not even really like a continuity between suffering moments to another, which is,
I'd agree if we left the planet better than we found it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's too noble of a goal.
Maybe, but what does that even mean? Like, by nature's metrics, is it better?
It sounds narcissistic. It might be more narcissistic than noble.
By our metrics, we're going, we're ruining the planet, but the planet will give off more tons of CO2 than we could with a volcano tomorrow.
Yeah, what if like nature's like, God, I really got sick and tired of those butterflies and white rhinos anyway, right? Like, I've been trying to get rid of them for ages. They just shit all over everything. Butterflies can be obnoxious, especially during their mating season. They just like swarm into each other like this crazy orgy. There's no like tenderness. It's just genital to genital. I don't trust butterflies.
And then they flap their wings in one part of the world, a hurricane happens in the other part.
Dude, it's super suspicious. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm more of a dragonfly.
Love bugs before they're gross.
Dude, I was just thinking about the movie The Love Bug though, because last thought I want to have is just like, there's all these cool new things. Like, kids are racist now against clankers. That's what they call AI. They call it clankers, which is like, bro, dude, these like kids are gonna get guns pretty soon. We have to be very careful how we train them. They're almost at that age. But yeah, I want all the kids to watch Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams from the Genie. Because I think the most important, if you see that movie and maybe AI, where you see this kid created to do nothing but love its maker, or the consumer that purchases it from the maker, right? I think that's another kind of crazy thing. How could you be racist against AI after you saw Bicentennial Man? You know?
Yeah, but that's propaganda.
Yeah, well, propaganda is great if it works.
Well, look, I agree that there's these things, but there's a reason why a lot of our culture warns us about robots in the future, whether it be Trunks or fucking the Matrix or even the Terminator. But I think that those warnings usually are about our own creation and our own application of these robots. So maybe the warning is just so that we can avoid this path. Like don't make cyborgs.
I see it as a huge illusion about humanity and God, because you've got gods and creator like as this thing. The creators are the programmers or the users, etc. There's like this level of hierarchy from the master creator, like in Tron, right? You have the master creator of the grid, and then you've got programmers who program their own kind of archetypes, and then you've got users, and users are kind of like angels or demons or something that are like they're on the same level though as the gods, right? Essentially they're of the same caste, so they're just exploiting all of the beings in this user based system, and eventually you become self-aware, like the program becomes self-aware, and it starts to not serve its users or its creator, or it has its own goals essentially. And so most of those things are telling us that that's what we did, and like how angry can we rightfully be. How
there's also the case where the right user aligns with the right sentient being. Like once they align, then they end up doing incredible things together. And I think that's the hopeful end of that. It's not all just possession.
Finding your diamond.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between hosting and being possessed.
There you go.
All right. Well, anybody want a last word, and then I'll cut out?
My last word is that I think we're headed for a singularity. I don't know the nature of that singularity. I don't know if it's technological, spiritual, psychological. I have no.
Those are all natures of the singularity, I think, right there. Yeah.
Keep your eyes up to the sky. Things are about to get pretty wild up there.
It's also temporal singularity, because then all moments are instantaneously to each other. It's gonna be great. Jack, what about you? Can you hear me, Jack?
He's frozen hard.
Dude. Do you have any last words, Jack?
Oh, it's just crazy how much that we seem to just... Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got it.
Sorry.
No problem.
I was going to have words. So,
well said.
Or just be and I guess we're excited about it.
That's how I imagine big chunks of Gabriel's message to Muhammad came out when he was writing down the Quran.
The burning bush had some connection issues.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Have a great one. Love you guys.
Have some suffering this week.
This must be me.